Good evening. I am Adventure Argonaut. This is Chrono Jotter. Let's see, are the streams working again? If my mouse wants to work. Even the mouse has problems sometimes. I do think that the streams are working. Let's check the last one. Nope, of course there's something wrong with Rumble. There always is. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, how about now? Is it working? Nope. What's going on? I said, hey, yeah, what's going on? Yes, you know, the game disappears from you when I alt tab away, but I think you can still hear the music, right? Aha, it's failed to start a Rumble stream. Okay, now it might be working. Yeah, let's see again. Maybe it was a problem with the OBS or something. Let's see. No, still not working. Okay, yes, I'm just, double checking the other streams too, that they are working. Okay, yes, I do think even Rumble is working now. Just wait that the game image appears, because now it's a dark screen, and now, okay, they're all working. I can get to the game finally after all these pained minutes. Yeah, but I think the music is nice and atmospheric, at least in the beginning. And so maybe I should do a short recap of what happened last time. So our protagonist Ibuki, she woke up in this sort of semi-abandoned old school, and then there were 7 other girls there as well. And Ibuki, she is looking for her girlfriend who's been gone, I think 4 years or something. And she ran into these other girls, and they've been living here for a year, and they cannot leave because the tunnel that leads out of this area is like there's been an earthquake or something, and it's stones, rocks block the entrance, and they don't seem concerned that they've been isolated here for a long time. And anyways, apparently one girl has been killed, even though we haven't visually verified it, but the other girls, they seem to assume it's normal, that there's always going to be a killer and some victim, and the victim's name is the same as the girlfriend of the protagonist. So yeah. Ran Ibuki had always liked the rain. She especially loved it when it started storming without warning. Storming without warning sounds like a song name or something. Watching strangers outside her window scramble around for shelter while she hid safely at home gave her an indescribable sense of security. When she told Anne about this, her love asked her, "But how would you feel if I were the one trapped in the rain?" How did I answer back then? How did I answer her back then? Um, Ran trailed behind everyone else as they headed towards the place where Sai said she had last seen Anne. Hmm. She didn't say a word and only occasionally looked up towards the sky, watching the dark clouds slowly converge. If Sakura-san knew she might get killed, why would she go over there and at all in the first place? She's always been pretty cooperative with her killer. She never put up much of a fight whenever I was supposed to kill her either. Okay, so yes, it's either the murder is just a game that they don't actually kill each other, or they somehow come back to life, or everything is, maybe there's a time reset or something. Because yeah, I think in the previous stream it was revealed that one character, what maybe it was her Tama, that she remembered the Great Kanto earthquake, and I checked that it happened in 1923, so that was 100 years ago. So clearly they are from different time periods, some characters, because the main character is from late Heisei era, and I checked that also. It's from 1989 to 2019. And yeah, she had a smartphone, so yeah, I guess it has to be like 2010s that the protagonist is from. The students ahead of her all seemed quite at ease. They'd spent the whole trip discussing Anne and the murder with each other. That's true. Whenever it's Anne's turn to be the victim, the culprit always tends to strike quickly. Now hang on, you shouldn't let yourself get spoiled just because Anne's so easy to work with. If we keep relying on her cooperation, then we'll have to change the rules eventually. Shouldn't we just focus on who the culprit is anyways? If she really did die near the swimming pool, then wouldn't that make me the prime suspect? Does that make Yoruna-san the culprit then? Indo, let me tell you, it's not a bad thing to be so straightforward, but you're not going to find the answer that way. Hey, it's not like she's completely straightforward. Tama frequently surprises all of us with the things she chooses to do too. Isn't that right, Tama? Tama shook her head fiercely. I just picked up a few things from my books, is all, because I hadn't had the chance to read often before. Despite knowing my methods, Asakura-san's never exposed me before. Well, we did read those books together, after all. Listening to the students' conversations, Ran began scratching her scalp again, but it didn't stop the pressure from rising within her. Hey, are you okay? Slowing her steps, Miho came to Ran's side. No, I'm fine. Shouldn't you be happy that I'm suffering anyways? I thought you hated me. So emo. Ran turned her head away, not wanting to speak to Miho. You're making me sound like some kind of psychopath. I don't hate you, okay? I just wanted to know why you showed up here at our school. Miho tilted her head slightly and inspected Ran's face carefully. Pale face, trembling lips, pupil dilations, pretty unnatural too. Heavy headache? A bit? Miho pressed her hand against Ran's forehead for a moment. Well, at least there's no fever. Alright, I can probably imagine what you're thinking. You knew Anne previously, didn't you? I could tell from your uniform. The other students should have noticed as well. So once you heard she'd been killed, you weren't able to wrap your mind around the idea, which is why you're in your present condition. The first time we went through this, we had pretty much the same reaction as you did, but once we got used to it, we found that it wasn't a big deal after all. As soon as Miho had stopped speaking, Ranse seized Miho's shoulder with a sudden hand. Noticing that something wasn't right, the others stopped as well. Got used to what? Murdering your own classmates or discussing the deceased with mockery? Just explain to me, why do you have to do things like this? You've really committed murder? Don't be so quick to judge things you don't understand, Ibuki. Well, yeah, why don't you explain what do you mean? Is it like a game or is there something, strange going on that death is not the end? Well, make me understand then. Damn it, explain what exactly it is you have done clearly. Yeah, exactly. Ran felt Miho pressing a hand onto Ran's, so she turned her head and met Miho's eyes. Ibuki-san, please calm down. Let's find An's corpse first, then we'll explain everything to you properly. Well, yeah, that's good. You should confirm that she's actually dead. Right now, even if we try to tell you everything, you'd still have a hard time comprehending it. But if you see the corpse, I'm sure you'll understand as well. Ran's hands trembled and she shook her head helplessly. How could I possibly understand? Ran let go of Miho. Now it was Miho's turn to take hold of Ran's shoulder. Let's go! Don't worry, Buki-san. Sakura-san will be okay. Faced with Tama's supportive words, Ran had no idea how she was supposed to respond. She could only force out the barest of grimaces. Asakura-san, will the swimming pool freeze this year as well? Yeah, the temperature's already gotten pretty low. It'll probably freeze over very soon. Yaruno, you should consider spending less time swimming too. If you get a cramp in the swimming pool during the winter, I definitely won't jump in to save you. It's not like I've ever seen you there. It's not like I ever seen you there even when it wasn't winter. Plus, I'm used to it already. It'll be fine. Used to it. Oh, once it snows again, we can build snowmen in the courtyard again. Let's build a chibi miho in the snow together, Sai-chan. Are you bringing that back up on purpose? Ooh, right. That one time Sai-chan got killed, they hid your corpse in a snowman, didn't they? Okay, that's sort of funny. Almost scared me to death when I went to shovel up the snow that day. All I can say is that sure is Tama for you, always exceeding our expectations. Don't! Tama's embarrassed expression made everyone crack up. What the hell? We're almost there. See the old shower room up ahead. I saw Sakura go in there this morning. Ran lifted her head, looking where Sai was pointing. Yeah, I even found it odd at the time, since I only ever used the new shower room on the other end myself. The old showers are much less convenient. So that's where Miss Sakura is right now. Ran took a few steps forward, eyes glued on the showers. Ibuki-san! Ran rushed towards the old shower room and pushed Miho, who was standing in front of her, out of the way with one hand. Ibuki-san! Ran's footsteps grew faster and faster. She knocked Sai's shoulder out of the way as she charged forward. Ran rushed into the shower room that Sai had indicated. Clutching the frame of the door, she stared at the girl leaning against the wall before her. Ran pulled her shoulders in, not sure where she should put her hands. She flailed her arms meaninglessly in the air, as though she'd forgotten how to control her own body. Finally, she brought her hands before her own face, letting her fingers wander up and down her face like kudzu. Kudzu is some plant, some vine, I think. Uh, Ran pried her mouth open with her hands and finally let out a shriek. Without question, the corpse in front of her was the love of her life and Sakura. Okay, this is so Danganronpa. There was a horizontal cut in the young woman's neck, which split the muscle and exposed blood vessels and vertebrae in the air. So, horizontal cut. So somebody cut her throat, slit the muscle and exposed blood. Okay. Because maybe we have to. Oh, damn it! Can I go back? No. I have accidentally. Can I like go back somehow? Recall log. Okay, I think. Okay, fine. I accidentally clicked that one. Note away. Massive amounts of blood had gushed forth from the wound, staining the color of her shirt and continuing downwards to cover Anne Sakura's black outerwear with bloodstains. Yeah, because we probably have to, figure out who did it. Looking up, Ran saw that Anne's long locks of hair had been splattered with blood, and in that moment she could only think that she ought to put those locks into her own mouth so that she could suck the blood out. Okay, that's weird. Anne always hated it when her hair got dirtied, after all, and all Ran could think of was how she had to get her hair clean immediately, or else Anne would surely be disconsolate about it later. Such disjoint thoughts couldn't restore Ran's composure to her as she slowly looked downwards. There was a slight tilt to the old shower room's floor, which was causing the blood to flow towards the right. By now it had converged into a river. Blood pooled over the drainage grate, slowly dripping drop by drop into the shadowy drain. In that moment, the sound of dripping slammed itself into Ran's sanity over and over like a sledgehammer. Ran fell to her knees. She barely managed to catch herself with her elbows, bringing her into contact with the still flowing blood. Looking down, she saw her newly red-stained hands and knees, and immediately arched her back and started tearing furiously into her own scalp. Nails scraped sharply against skin, letting out spine-chilling sounds reminiscent of flesh being torn. Interspersed into it all was Ran's on and off weeping. Sakura, Anne! Ran's hands clawed even harder. Already there were traces of blood and skin stuffed under her fingernails. She felt like she was dangling on a spider's thread, that thread itself the only thing keeping her from losing her mind to hell. And the thing that had cast the thread in the first place was the mockery that the others had made of the murder with their playful words. Ibuki-san! Miho seized Ran's hands from behind. What are you doing? Miss Sakura's blood! I'm telling you, Anne's fine. You're the one who's really scaring me right now. Miho helped her up, but Ran immediately lost her balance and collapsed onto Miho's back. Can't stand up? Miho held Ran's waist with her hand and gently patted her back with the right. Ran shook her head, her whole body powerless. But then she suddenly awoke and seized the collar of Miho's uniform with a trembling hand. Which one of you six killed her? Who was it? Tell me. Please, just calm down. Let us explain. Listen to you? I've been looking for her for so long, and I finally managed to see her again. Why? So why did it have to be like this? Why did it have to be like this? Ran slowly released her grip on Miho's shirt as she swept unintelligibly. Miho didn't get angry with Ran's actions at all. She continued gently stroking Ran's back, trying to reassure her. She whispered quietly into Ran's ear. Ibuki-san, Anne's not dead. She'll come back to us. Ran shook her head furiously. I don't understand a word of what you're saying. Don't keep making me. Soon the other students arrived on the scene as well. Oh, yep, Corp sure is here. Is right here. I guess I really am the prime suspect then. Since it's near the swimming pool, let's presume that Yoruna is the killer for now and start investigating. I don't know, she like her expression, she's so cheerful, like, yep, let's assume it's her and investigate. I sort of like the attitude. I swear, Asakura. And then let's hurry and begin. Let's solve this case quickly and wake Sakura-san back up so that we can cheer Ibuki-san up again too. Koizumi headed over to Anne's body and bent down, preparing to touch her. Don't touch her! Ran's reaction startled Koizumi, who pulled her hand back, immediately leapt up into a stiff pose, as though she was a misbehaving student who'd been told to stand in the corner and think about what she'd done wrong. Ran pushed Miho away, quickly stepped in front of Sai. I'm done trying to understand what the hell you lot are saying, but you said people who die here can still come back to life, right? Tell me what I have to do. Ran-chan seems terribly upset. Even though Ran's emotions had been heavily perturbed by the sight of Anne's corpse, she was very aware that her rationality hadn't completely shut down yet. She probably knew Anne before this. She remembered that everyone at the scene had either directly or indirectly mentioned this completely incomprehensible idea that the dead would ultimately reawaken. And based on their attitude to them, killing their classmates and reviving the dead was completely commonplace and mundane at this point. Okay. She likely believes that Anne is truly dead. That's why she's acting like this. I heard her say in the classroom that she was looking for her missing girlfriend. If Ran hadn't noticed those things, she would long since have completely lost her sanity at Anne's death and allowed her condition to consume her. Could she have meant Anne? The girlfriend, yeah, of course. In fact, curiosity would probably have driven Ran to verify their outlandish claims anyways, and had the victim here been anybody other than Anne Sakura. Basically, what you need to do is identify the culprit and recount the steps that she took to commit the murder. If you recount everything correctly, Sakura will come back to life. So, girlfriend. Okay, okay. Since when did the two of you get so synced up? How does the revival work? I can't imagine such a thing. First, the wounds mend, then blood regenerates, and last of all, the heart begins to beat again. Before this, well, there was this one time that the culprit cut off all the limbs of the victim and hid them in different locations all over the school. They even cut open the victim's abdomen and to expose their internal organs. Sai's expression grew complex and she shrugged before continuing. We got to see for ourselves the full process of the victim's revival that time, so trust me, with such relative light wounds as these, Sakura won't take more than a few seconds to come back to life. Ran covered her mouth as she imagined the scene that Sai had described. The kind of revival she's talking about is the type that restores the existing body while still retaining the soul of the deceased. That means it can't be the golem delivery service. They reconstruct entirely new bodies for the dead without retaining the soul. What is she talking about? Do I want to know? I've recorded the term golem delivery service. Could it be Mr. Blood Sculptor? I remember that one could repair corpses by causing wounds to grow new tissue. Okay, that's the term. The golem delivers service as a non-physical conceptual entity with the power to restore those killed by a certain method. The details of which are unclear to Ran Ibuki's memory loss, to the state they were in 1 hour prior to dying. This revival disregards the laws of physics and ends only when the one who was directly or indirectly responsible for killing the revived individual suffers brain death. Okay. In order to prevent the resurrected dead from being discovered by others, has been obligated 3 times to personally restore them to their natural state of existence. Okay. So apparently this supernatural crap is more common in this game's universe than it seemed initially. The blood sculptor requires massive amount of readily available blood on hand, though, and I don't know if it has the power to preserve the soul. I've never seen it operate on a corpse either. Forget the girlfriend thing. Ibuki's gone mute again. It's like this happens to her whenever she's thinking about something. I've recorded the term Mr. Blood Sculptor. There's plenty of other anomalies related to revival. No, most of those involve retrieving the dead from elsewhere altogether, leaving the original corpse where it lies. Okay, let's check Mr. Blood Sculptor. Mr. Blood Sculptor is a black-haired Maine Coon house cat with scarlet eyes. Its vocal cords are standard for feline organisms and thus it cannot produce human speech. However, it is capable of understanding spoken Punjabi, which has allowed it to enter into cooperative arrangement with Ran Ibuki. Okay, this is suddenly getting weird. And I don't know if it's good weird or bad weird, but anyways, the blood sculpture is capable of sculpting blood into any and all forms of animal biological tissue without regard for the nature of the blood, i.e., it can create any species tissue out of any species blood so long as it has sufficient understanding of the species and tissues involved. After Ran brought the blood sculpture 36 bags of PR brand frozen cat food and engaged in constant petting of the blood sculptor's head and stomach for 3 hours each day for 18 consecutive days, the blood sculptor agreed to use 10 gallons of whale blood to create a serpentine creature bearing features of many different organisms. What the fuck is going on? The exact nature of this creature has been forgotten due to Ran's memory loss. The sculpted creature flew into the sky after 2 hours passed and disappeared. I don't know, I think this game is more taxing on my sanity than any Lovecraftian game. So there's plenty of other anomalies related to revival. No, most of those involve retrieving the dead from elsewhere altogether, leaving the original corpse where it lies. Okay, and Asakura-san sometimes goes all quiet and gets all serious face too. I can't imagine what kind of power it would take to enact revival on the original corpse itself. Is that so? I must have been thinking about you then. In fact, with the conditions for resurrection being as bizarre as this, perhaps it's not a passive mechanism, but rather another conscious entity actively deciding whether the dead should be revived or not. Sakura's corpse may not have made me want to hurl, but listening to you two sure does. Wow. Okay, damn, I can't figure it out. If only Lady Ihara were here, she'd surely be able to see the answer instantly. Recorded term Miss Ihara. Okay, how come you keep going into mute mode like that? Well, she's clearly thinking. No, it's Ibara, not Ihara. What? Here it says Ihara, but it's Ibara. Anyways, her full name is Yukari Ihara. According to her, this is a pseudonym. Apparently an ordinary human based on current recorded interactions between Ran Ibuki and Yukari Ihara However, she possesses both exceedingly sharp intellect and a deep insight into certain cognition distorting anomalies, the details of which are unclear due to Ran Ibuki's memory loss, both of which seem impossible for an ordinary human to possess. Ran Ibuki is on cordial terms with her and often receives her assistance. Miss Ihara claims she aids Ran because she sees many similarities between herself and Ran. Okay. Ran sniffed a bit and forcefully wiped away her tears. Her eyes were still a little red from crying. I understand. I was going to find the culprit anyway, so no matter what, and if this can bring Miss Sakura back to life, then all the better. And when that happens, I will take Miss Sakura away from this place. Well, you'll have to ask her permission for that, but I guess that's none of our business. Maybe I'll save. There's gonna be some actual investigation stuff soon. Soonish. You know, these games don't respect your time so much. These visual novel kind of games. Of course, Miss Sakura will agree. After all, she's my girlfriend. Girlfriend? Is that true? That's the first I've heard of it. Anne has never mentioned you to us before. Never mentioned me, huh? Maybe she's actually a stalker or something, and Sakura hates her or fears her, something like that. Forget it. I can figure that out later. Ran turned and approached Anne's corpse. Uh, she kneeled down and brushed strands of hair away from Anne's face so that she could see it more clearly. The face she'd sought for so long made Ran's heartbeat almost stop for a moment, and she wanted to do nothing more than pick up Anne and give her a deep kiss. But Anne Sakura's bloodless face and the stench of blood all around her forced her to remain calm. Please just endure it for a little longer, Miss Sakura. I'll find the truth. No matter what the cause is, I've now been forced to participate in what they consider to be ordinary everyday life. This school that's been isolated from the outside world for a year without being affected at all. The linguistic abnormalities, the students who murder each other and revive the dead by finding the culprits, and all the rest of the strangeness. I have to keep my wits about me at all times. If I let myself believe like they do that all of this is completely normal, then it's possible that I'll never be able to get out of here. Sakura-san, you have to wake up, please. I'm nothing without you. Hinata, let's let Ibuki-san handle the coursework this time around. Oh, sure. Koizumi Hinata only now seemed to have regained the wit she'd lost from when Ran had berated her. She nodded her head in a panic, agreeing with Miho's statement. I'm gonna guess right now that it's the killer is the girl with the choker. Aya, maybe her name was. No, based on zero evidence, just my hunch. Let's do as Take-san suggested. This will help Ibuki-san understand the coursework at our school more quickly as well. What's coursework supposed to mean? I don't know if you noticed or not, but on our syllabus we only have classes in the morning with every afternoon marked as free activities. This sort of situation is what we refer to when we say free activities. We consider this a part of our coursework as well. Under normal circumstances, we'd be competing with each other, but this time we'll let you handle it by yourself. We'll give you all the help you need. I'm just thinking, maybe this would be a superior education system. Like, if real schools could do this, society would be a better place and everybody would be smarter. So, feel free. All I want to do is find the killer. You people's rules are your own business. Ran took a deep breath, letting the stench of the blood and the pool's disinfecting scents mix together and flow, carried by her inhalation, into her brain. It was like she'd injected a stimulant directly into her skull, and it slew each of her uncontrollable trains of thought. Ran Ibuki had returned to her normal state. Then let's begin investigating the crime scene. Finally. Old showers. Okay. Murderer. Who could it be? Handbag. Let's check the handbag. Ran scanned the area, confirming the situation again. Besides the area around the corpse, there are no other unnatural bloodstains. Miss Sakura's bloodstains won't show any indications that her corpse was dragged anywhere, so this should be the original scene of the crime. But there's an abnormal amount of blood at the scene of the crime, unless Miss Sakura didn't die quickly after her neck was cut, allowing her heart to continue pumping blood. Mm, so yeah, so there's so much blood, so maybe she, means that she was alive, suffering for a long time before dying. I guess that's what it means. Just wondering if there's some reason for, like, except maybe sadism, that the killer didn't kill her immediately, or maybe because Yoruno, the girl who went swimming, she said she saw Sakura here. Like maybe she was, already dying, and the killer sort of held her, tortured body, showing her to Yoruno or something, and to think she was fine, but she was dying. I don't know. Would it make any sense? But with a wound like this, death ought to have been extremely fast. Ran shook her head, stooped down, and opened Anne Sakura's handbag. Well, if it's, means that, maybe it was cut very carefully, so, death wouldn't be instantaneous, like on purpose. Maybe it was the nurse girl, whatever her name was. Was it Miho? Because she seems to be some sort of medical expert, quote unquote. So, anyways, handbag. The handbag has clearly been moved. Miss Sakura should have been carrying it on her shoulder, or at least in her hand. When she was attacked, she stepped back and hit the wall before collapsing. The bag shouldn't have appeared here. Then the bloodstains wouldn't have looked like this either. Did the killer take anything out of it? A notebook, some stationery? That's all that was in the bag. And the stationery didn't look like the kind that Miss Sakura usually favors either. Well, if she's been here for a year or something, maybe she doesn't have much access to kind of stationery she likes. And Ran searched all over the handbag, but she didn't find what she was looking for. Strange. She put down the handbag and began rifling through the pockets of Anne's jacket and dress. Not here either. Miss Sakura didn't carry her phone with her. President, why does Miss Sakura keep her phone on her usually? Koizumi seemed to skip a beat before answering. We keep our phones on ourselves usually, otherwise we might not be able to call each other if we got into trouble. Does Miss Sakura ever forget to bring her phone with her? I doubt it. Anne's very consistent. I've never seen her make a mistake. She's the kind of girl who could brush her teeth without spilling a drop of water. But she still gets murdered in the shower room or toilet, whatever this place is. So I guess it means the killer took the phone, maybe? Pretty sure you're the only person in the whole class who can't. Back on topic though, I don't think Anne would have forgotten to bring it. Were you looking for her phone just now? Yep, it's fine, I get it. Let's leave it at that. Are there any other clues? Okay, so that's the bag. Kept the corpse. Ron knelt next to Anne's corpse, brushed away the hair that covered her neck. Few strands of torn muscle dangled in the bloody wound. The skin draped atop it was as limp as ragged cloth. Ran approached the wound for a closer inspection. The cut is extremely deep, reaching all the way to the depths of the cervical fascia. The most direct cause of death was most likely exsanguination from the severing of the neck veins and arteries. Though, as the windpipe has been severed as well, it's possible that Miss Sakura had already died of asphyxiation before the exsanguination reached fatal levels. Miss Sakura's left hand shows no stains of blood on the palm side, and her right hand only at the fingertips, and even that's probably because it was dangling in the blood puddle on the floor. So she didn't reflexively clutch her throat when it was cut after all. Maybe she was, held somehow, like cuffed, manacled. Or maybe she was drugged first and then her throat was cut or something. Or she was holding something that made her incapable of reacting immediately. Maybe maybe she was typing something on her phone, like, "Ooh, my killer is," something like that. After a moment of hesitation, Ran used her hand to peel the wound on Sakura's neck open slightly. The separation of flesh and blood made a faint but gruesome squelch. Blood trickled down Ran's pointed finger, tickling her slightly. The vertebrae haven't been severed since, of course. None of the students here seem strong enough to cleave through both of the vertebral column and the attached muscles of the neck in a single blow. Ran stretched her neck out to observe in detail. She noticed that several small cut marks had been left on the vertebra. I see, it wasn't a single precise strike that severed the soft tissues on the neck apart like this. When the culprit attacked, their weapon was blocked by the vertebra. Afterwards, they must have had to apply multiple cuts to expand the wound to such a startling degree. That's all the clues the wounds can provide. Let's see if there's any other clues. Okay. Any other stuff? The graphics are masterful, by the way. Okay, I don't see anything else here, so I guess we just press X to doubt. Old showers. Miss Ibuki seems very practiced at this. Tama spoke in a quiet voice to Makoto. Maybe she's watched too many police procedurals. Police procedurals? Ah, yeah, because she's, from 100 years ago. So I guess she doesn't know about TV. But she has a phone, though, like cell phone. So I don't know. I mentioned back when she showed up in the classroom, no matter how you look at it, her claims that she got here by getting lost are highly suspicious, not to mention how she says that she's just an ordinary high schooler. Miho paused a bit, looking at Ran's silhouetted back before continuing. Perhaps Ibuki-san has her reasons to keep her secrets, though. Ran stood up and approached the students who were whispering amongst themselves. I finished investigating the corpse and picked up a few clues, but I'm not a coroner and I can't determine the time of death. Okay, you said you're the school nurse here, right? Can you perform an autopsy? What do you think? Ran shrugged. Well, the way you all acted so cavalier about this, I figured you'd have a whole procedure in place for this by now. Looks like you're recovered quite well if you've got the spare energy to snark at us. I'm serious about wanting to know if there's anybody among you who can perform a corpse autopsy. The time of death of the victim is connected to the window of opportunity for the culprit to act, and thus to all our alibis. Knowing it would be very helpful for eliminating suspects. Eliminate suspects. Wow, she does sound like she's on a cop drama. I was too embarrassed to talk like that the first time I investigated. Ran-chan sure is incredible. Yeah, this is my prime suspect, you know. Simply cause. Source, it came to me in a dream. Aya seemed so excited she was practically out to clap. Now it's all your turn to make fun of me, huh? Otherwise, right now, the only time frame we have to work with is Yoruno's testimony about when she last saw Miss Sakura. If she's not lying, then Miss Sakura was killed sometime between when Yoruno saw her and when the class president reached the classroom. I'm not lying. If I were lying, I'd just not say anything about having seen Sakura this morning at all. After all, right now it looks like my testimony is the only way you have to determine when Sakura was killed. We don't know that for sure. If you killed Miss Sakura far earlier than that, then it might serve you to lie about having seen her alive, when in fact she was already dead by that point. Yes, indeed. Though the blood has yet to completely dry, so even if there's some error in the timing, it probably isn't that far off. Could have been anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour earlier, though. Sai lifted her eyebrows and nodded as though she'd been enlightened. If we just if we're just talking hypotheticals, then sure, I guess. No matter what, Miss Sakura's death couldn't have happened any earlier than that. So let's start from the assumption that Yorno is not lying and start eliminating possibilities. Koizumi nodded, looking happy that Ran was fitting so well into the group's normal dynamic. Go ahead, Ibuki-san, we'll all cooperate with you. President? What is it, Ibuki-san? You realize that you're the most suspicious people right now. Yoruno, who was swimming at the pool, and you, the person who arrived the latest to class besides her. Is that so? Oh, I get it. Because I arrived last in class, I had more time than anyone else to kill Sakura-san. Plus, I'm in the same dorm room as she is. Correct. Then besides the fact that I could not have possibly killed Miss Sakura both by time frames and motives, the person that's least suspicious to me is Indo, who brought me to class this morning. Yeah. I think we spent quite a lot of time with her. But considering the possibility that Indo and Yoruno could be working together, I can't eliminate her as a suspect entirely. Yeah, I guess it could be, accomplices and stuff. I don't know how their rules work. Working together? Would the culprit we drew this time really look for an accomplice to help her? You drew the culprit? What kind of rule is that? Let me explain. Put simply, the culprit and victim are all drawn via lots. Of course, besides the murderer, nobody knows who drew the victim lot. We can explain this in more detail afterwards. It's not relevant to your investigation at the moment. So wait, the victim... So the victim knows they're gonna be the victim beforehand, so it's not like, the murderer just chooses somebody to kill. Is that it? For now, just know that though an accomplice situation isn't very likely, it can't be ruled out. There's so many bizarre rules. Do they really treat this kind of thing as a game? Then in that case, you're not freed of suspicion either, since you and Toyama arrived at class together. and you can't provide alibis for each other anymore. Finally, we have Asakura. She's less suspicious than the class president, but not by much. So, therefore, we can't trivialize this just by excluding those with alibis, huh? Ibuki-san, it's true that you can indeed confirm the identity of the culprit with a method like this sometimes. However, remember that you still also have to accurately recount the culprit's methods before Anne's resurrection can take place. I know. Hearing Miho say those words, say the word resurrection again, Ran realized once more that what she was trying to do here could only be described as utter ridiculousness or madness, insanity. But it was the only choice she had. So the key question is whether Yoruna actually saw Miss Sakura as well as what Miss Sakura came here for. Uh, I think this is all I can get out of their testimonies for now. Ran gently touched the notebook in her jacket's pocket from outside. Let's use the notebook. I've got some ideas, but I'd like to think by myself for a moment. Let's do a quick save here. I'll find somewhere quiet to get my thoughts in order. I'll leave Miss Sakura's corpse to you all. Wait, why not tell us what you're thinking so we can help discuss your ideas with you? Yeah, wouldn't it be better to think together? Ran stopped at the door, turned to look towards Ayatoyama. Sure, maybe. But just how exactly do you expect me to trust you all? Y'all. So Reddit. Ran has updated her notes. Ran looked around for a while to find a suitable place. Ultimately, she settled on a patch of grass outside the school building and sat down with her back to the schoolhouse's wall. Please help me. It doesn't matter how much of my blood you want this time. Just find the correct recall point that will let me save Miss Sakura. Ran extracted the notebook from her jacket. She gently caressed the cover, and raised her head to let Anne touch a thumb onto her face. Um, I'm just like, let Anne touch a thumb to her face. Is there like a picture of Anne on the notebook or something? She knew that Anne wasn't actually here, of course. It was just that each of her recalls were always preceded by the same hallucination that Anne Sakura was right there by her side. Hallucinations were her constant companion, of course, but it was always Anne's illusion that was strongest right before she performed the recall, to the point where she could almost smell the fragrance of her beloved's body. It was a warm scent, a fragrance that belonged only to Anne's body. Ran lowered her head, flipped to an empty page in the notebook, and pressed the 5 fingers of her right hand against the page. Let's begin. As soon as Ran spoke, it was as if a switch had been flipped. Her fingertips heated up, and blood began to seep out through the grooves of her fingerprints. The instant the blood came into contact with the paper, it was absorbed into the pages. Like an appetizer, the first drop of blood had fully ignited the notebook's gluttony. Ran's fingers bled faster and faster, the red blood stain spreading across the page before being instantly absorbed. The more the notebook drank, the more insatiable it became. Blood flew from her fingers at an alarming speed, even making tiny splashes against the surface of the page. Finally, the rate of bleeding began to outpace the rate at which the notebook could absorb the blood, and the page began staining itself red. Hey, stop! Ran pulled her hand up, away from the notebook, scattering a lingering crescent of blood on the lawn in front of her. She wiped her fingers off on the pages quickly to get all the remaining stains off. Naturally, her fingers remained unblemished as usual. Look, I know I told you you could drink as much as you wanted, but this is way too much. If you get drunk, who's going to help me here? It's weird. As blood lingering on the page was gradually absorbed, the notebook returned to its usual appearance, free even of a single bloodstain. Ran sighed. Yeah, yeah, it's not Death Note, it's Time Note. This should be enough, right? Ran flipped through the pages until she reached the recall tab. As she'd hoped, a new recall point had been formed. I've recorded a new recall point. Special recall. As the washstand when Sai was about to go to the swimming pool. I understand. So this is the meaning of the recall point you found this time. If I decide at that moment to go along with Yoruno, then I can see for myself whether she saw Miss Sakura and determine the exact time frame of the incident. You've given me plenty of indistinct recall points in the past, ones that I had to try multiple times before I understood their meanings. But this time you've been quite precise. I guess you also want to do everything you can to help me revive Miss Sakura, huh? Alright, let's begin recalling. On recall mode. In branch recalls, you can recall a previous point where a decision was made. In investigation recalls, you can recall to previous regions that you've investigated before. The bottom of the page hosts new recall content that only becomes available when a victim has been confirmed. Special recalls allow you to find important clues to the current case through recall. After the clues have been found, you can terminate the recall session. Reminds me of Dark Souls 2 when you enter the memories and stuff. Okay, so special recall or total recall. Okay, and this morning after bidding farewell to Ran and Tama, Sai visited the swimming pool by herself, making her into a critical witness for Ansakura's true time of death. Had Ran decided to visit the swimming pool with Sai at that time, she might have been able to get Ansakura's exact time of death, or perhaps even been able to see Anne herself. Okay, so we can jump back in time, I guess. We are the Chrono Jotter. I guess that's what the name means. You know, Jotter doesn't sound good, but hey, I guess it does the trick. It probably sounds better in Chinese, like the name, because this is a Chinese game, I think. Alright, let's start from here. Tama had raised herself to the tips of her toes as she spoke to open the washroom's mirror. She took out a toothbrush that was still sealed in its packaging and handed it to Ran. By now, Yoruna had finished washing up. She gave Ran a pat on her shoulder and waved farewell to Tama before departing for the dormitory steps. This way I'm going to encounter Miss Sakura in advance as well, won't I? What might that lead to? Even if I really do run into her, I have to remember to retreat from recall. I can't stay here for too long. Alright, let's begin. Ran called to Sai, stopping her in her tracks. Hold on, Yoruno. What's the matter? Could I visit the swimming pool with you? I'd like to see what the swimming pool here is like. Aren't all pools pretty much the same everywhere? Sai was about to turn and depart, but perhaps upon noticing that Tama's huge eyes were filled with ignorance, she suddenly changed her mind. Well, whatever, I feel bad about trying to foist you off on Tama anyways. Come with me then. I guess my past self is thinking that compared to the schoolhouse which he'd already investigated the night before, the unexplored swimming pool is worth visiting more. That's why she's choosing to chit-chat with Sayoruno. Yep, the recalls are as logical and reasonable as ever. That's reassuring. Hold on for a moment, I'm done brushing my teeth real soon. Ran brushed quickly, it didn't take long for her to gargle and rinse. After that she cleaned the cup and placed it back on the counter. Let's go! Alright Indo, we'll be off then. Tama lightly bowed to the two of them. Very well, see you again, Yoruna-san, Ibuki-san. Well, here we are. So tada, the pool, neat, huh? Aren't all pools pretty much the same everywhere? Heh. Sai lightly swiped at Ran with her swimsuit bag. You're the one who asked to see it. Alright, enough talk. Come with me to the changing room. Wait, you expect me to go swimming too? Of course, those who come to the swimming pool must be prepared for swimming. Look, even if you phrase it like it's some kind of deep quote or something, there's no way I'm going swimming. It's way too cold for it. Oh, come on, there's nothing to be afraid of. It'll be fine so long as you do warm-ups. Plus, I'll be by your side. Sai pointed towards a few buildings on the side of the pool as she spoke. There's some spare swimsuits in the showers there. Should be one you can wear somewhere. The showers are over there, but the direction that Sai was pointing in was the exact opposite direction as the location where Ansakura's corpse would eventually be found. The showers are over there, then what's that over there on the other end? Ran pointed towards the other end of the pool where she thought the showers were located. Good thing I'm so perceptive when it comes to strange details as usual. If she hadn't asked, I'd have to ask Yorino again afterwards. That would have been awkward. Oh, those are the old showers over there. I basically never visit them. So yeah, why was if Sakura was killed in the old showers, why was she there? Like, I mean, it's not like they don't work or anything. They work, but there's no need to run all the way over since we've got newer showers right here. And the old showers don't even have changing rooms, which makes changing a pain. So according to this, she's used the old showers before, or maybe she's just speaking from experience. Wait, isn't that the same? She's used the old showers or she's speaking from experience. Doesn't that mean that she has the experience of having used the old showers? I don't know, my mind is breaking. Sai grabbed Ran's wrist and dragged her forwards. Alright, come on, we've got only got an hour left until the class meeting starts, so let's hurry it up. Trust me, a morning swim is the best way to energize yourself. You'll love it. Absolutely not, I'll freeze to death. Sai suddenly started laughing and pulled Ran to her side, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. The first time I took my little sister swimming in the winter, she dug her heels in just like you. But after that, she hounded me to go swimming together with her every day. I'm sure it's gonna be the exact same with you. It won't be the same. Your sister must surely have swimming DNA, just like you, whereas I, on the other hand, am purely terrestrial organism. Okay. Oh, the way you make excuses is just like her too. Let's go! Don't! Thank goodness I didn't actually choose to come here with Yoruna at the time. After that, Sai tried to get Ran to take a long swim, but Ran gave up right after her first dip into the pool, declaring that she absolutely couldn't bear it anymore. Sai was forced to give up and exit the pool. She quickly changed back into her uniform before she sat down by the side of the pool and began tying her hair back up with her hands while she soaked her feet in the water, waiting for the run. Ran, on the other hand, was still shivering on her own in the dressing room, her movements quite literally glacial. What's going on? Miss Sakura still hasn't shown up, and this was absolutely not worth it. Even if this was just a recall, I can still viscerally feel exactly what the me that made this decision must be feeling right now. Wait. Is there something wrong with Rumble? I noticed that viewers are waiting, so is Rumble not working? Let's see if whether the other streams. I think the other streams are working, but there's some. Wait, is it working now? I think the. Yes, I think Rumble is working, but I think there was some glitch for a moment there. Okay, yes, it seems to be working. Okay. Just close this and okay. And to think that Yoruno imagined that I would get hooked on swimming with her after this. I'm never coming back to the swimming pool in the winter, not even if it kills me. Anyway, seriously, what's taking Miss Sakura so long? Was Yoruno actually just lying? I remember when she arrived at the classroom, it was almost 7:10, and now the clock in the dressing room showed that the time was 6:42. Well, it's still early. Maybe if I wait a little longer. But is this shouldn't she go to the room where Sakura was killed? This is not the shower room, that one. Suddenly she heard muffled sounds of speech from outside the dressing room. Someone's here. I can't hear them clearly though. Is that Miss Sakura's voice? There's some distance to the swimming pool from here, and there's a door between us two. Not to mention how Yoruno won't stop splashing her feet in the pool. She's making so much noise. Ran dressed herself again, leaving only her jacket behind, but she suddenly noticed that her hair hadn't dried yet. So she picked up a towel again and started wiping it off. Unfortunately, the noise of the towel made her... The noise of the towel made against her hair completely drowned out the sounds of the conversation from the outside. Why is it that I can only experience myself's perceptions during a recall? If only I could control myself and step through this door. What does it mean? I can only experience myself's perceptions. Like, I'm confused what she means by that. Of course, you can only experience stuff through your own perception or your own senses. Then I could see again Miss Sakura. Okay. So is it like she's not supposed to interact with? I don't quite understand. Ran noticed the sound outside but decided not to leave the dressing room. The present me is definitely thinking that there's no need to rush out to see who Yoruno is talking to, since I would run into them sooner or later. But I hadn't imagined that it could have been Miss Sakura. By the time Ran finished drying her hair, the conversation outside the room had long since concluded. When she opened the door and returned to the swimming pool, all she saw was Sai Yoruno by herself. Okay, I'm getting the feeling that this Ran, she is very incompetent. At the edge of the swimming pool, there's a trail of shoe prints extending forward. Sai's feet are still bare, and she is still in the pool without... I doubt those prints must have been left by someone else. It's not guaranteed to be Miss Sakura though. If Yoruno is the culprit, the other person is an accomplice. No, If that were the case, then Yoruna wouldn't have brought me to the swimming pool. The fact that I fled the swimming pool so quickly came as a surprise to her. She'd clearly been hoping that I'd stick around a bit longer. If I really had kept swimming, then I would have gotten to see the person she spoke with myself. So these prints do indeed most likely belong to Miss Sakura. Well, can't she ask Yoruna who she saw? Were you talking to someone just now? Yep, first time visiting the swimming pool at a time like this, actually. Actually, it's rare to see her at the pool, period. Someone else came here to swim? You're telling me there's someone else on this planet who can go swimming on a winter morning other than you, Yoruna? Did she and I just slip past each other in the world of the recall points? Hey, didn't you just go swimming with me? Don't act like it's so weird. Miss Sakura. Honestly, I was curious too, so I asked her what she was doing here. She was also carrying a bag in one hand, probably a swimsuit. But she said she was just here to make a delivery to someone, not to go swimming herself. If only I'd pushed open that door, I could have seen living Miss Sakura with my own eyes. We could have a delivery. So you're saying that there's someone else here besides us? I hadn't noticed at all. Another of our classmates who apparently got the urge to go swimming all of a sudden. They showed up even earlier than we did, and they're finished swimming by now. Miss Sakura, I miss you. You're not going to ask her to swim with you? No. Sai stood up, wiped her feet, and put her shoes on. Yorunas braided her hair back up. It seems she unties her braids before swimming and before going to bed. Looks like she's quite adept at braiding her own hair at this point. Swimming with you today was pretty nice, so I'm plenty satisfied. What? Really? We hardly swam for that long at all. I figured you'd want more. Yeah, that'd probably be the case normally, but Sai stretched lazily and then leaned in, placing her hand on Ran's shoulder. She was so close that Ran could smell the shampoo on her, the same as Ran's own. Swimming with me reminds me a lot of playing with my sister. It's been a long time since I've seen her, so it was pretty nice. Also, it would be a pain to put my swimsuit back on at this point. Okay, updated profile of Sai Yoruna. I guess it's something about her sister. Okay. So I cannot access the notebook while I'm in midst of a recall. I guess that's interesting. I'm guessing that that last one is the real reason, huh? So I laughed, giving no answer, and took Koran's hand. Come on, I'll take you to the classroom. I still don't quite understand why can't she, go stalk the murder scene beforehand. Like if you got this time travel power, you should, abuse it properly. Looks like this is probably good enough for now. No, it's not. I think she's very incompetent. Like she should be able to solve this murder without time travel power. So if she has time travel powers, she should, use them properly. And it's like, okay, we know she was making a delivery to somebody, and presumably the person who accepted the delivery killed Sakura. Pleasantly surprising that I was able to see a different side of Yoruna as well. Not bad. Okay, end recall. Ran closed the notebook and raised her head with her eyes closed, shivering all over. Still haven't quite recovered from that swim. Brrr. I remember that one time I got my head chopped off in a recall point. It hurt for days on end after that. So you can die in a recall and still not die. Then she lowered her head and buried her face between her legs, letting out a weak groan. The mental pressure caused by the recall made her feel like someone had plunged her hand right into her cranium and blended her brain into a total mess. Ran grit her teeth and forced herself to repeatedly remember the experiences she'd had during normal time so that the things she saw in the recalls didn't get mixed in. Okay, that's smart at least, because the recall timeline didn't happen to others, I guess. So Yoruna doesn't know that she was in the swimming pool or anything. Otherwise, she'd lose her mind, or at least that was what she figured. She envisioned two boxes of puzzle pieces in front of her where all the pieces were mixed up. All she needed to do is complete the image of Ansakura's smiling face on the left. Yeah, she seems a bit like a crazy stalker and not the actual girlfriend of Sakura, like Ran. Okay, in her imagination, Ran plucked the unnecessary fragments away and completed her lover's expression bit by bit. It's almost done. Fortunately, she was already quite used to this and quickly returned to her normal state. Alright, that's enough. The answer to this case is obvious, so let's finish the job. It's obvious, okay. Is it the choker? Was Sakura delivering the choker or something? Okay, are we gonna do some Hercule Poirot revelation? Alright, enough clues have been collected. Let's try and find the answer. Let's do a quick save. First, let's list all the questions and select the ones that are most worth considering out of them. The answers to these questions will lead me to the truth. Once all worthwhile questions have been selected, a bubble prompt will appear on the left. Clicking on it will allow you to enter deduction mode. How did the culprit summon Miss Sakura to the swimming pool? I guess this one. Knowing how the killer called Miss Sakura to the pool would be very helpful for discerning the culprit's identity as well as the time of the murder. This is a question worth of contemplation. Well, yeah, she was supposedly doing a delivery, like Sakura, so who was the receiver? Let's write it down. Okay, how did the culprit clean the blood of herself? Well, that could be Yoruna, though, like, she killed, maybe she killed her in her swimsuit, Sakura, and then jumped into the pool. That's right, the span of time between Yoruna's encounter with Miss Sakura and the class president's arrival at the classroom was very short. So, is she assuming it's the class president who is the killer? Culprit severed Miss Sakura's carotid artery and repeated the cut multiple times. They must have gotten a large amount of blood on themselves. Based on what I saw in the recall, Miss Sakura appeared after 6:40, which means that the killer had an extremely limited amount of time to commit the crime and clean the blood of themselves. This is an important question. Why choose the pool as the scene of the crime? It's very strange. Everyone in class surely knew that Yoruna always goes swimming in the morning. Even if she didn't go every day, the culprit would still have no reason to take the risk of killing Miss Sakura near the pool. Good point. This question requires further consideration. Okay. Yeah, was it Miss Sakura who spoke to Yoruna? Yeah, well, why couldn't she just ask Yoruna at the pool, like, what was the person's name you were talking to? There's no doubt in the slightest here, since Yoruna had no reason to lie. The prints on the ground prove that someone did indeed show up there. If it wasn't Miss Sakura, then it could only be the culprit. Yeah, that's possible. But the culprit couldn't have arrived after Miss Sakura. She would surely have arrived in advance to wait for Miss Sakura. If at 6:40 the culprit had just reached the pool and encountered Yoruna, then her already limited window of opportunity would have been reduced even further. There's no reason why she would have to raise the time pressure on herself like that. I guess it makes sense. Plus, the culprit definitely knew what Yoruna would spend. That Yoruna would spend a long time swimming if she arrived at the pool. At a time like that, she would have been forced to abandon her plan due to encountering Yoruna the way it went in the recall. The culprit would definitely have chosen to arrive at the pool before Yoruna to prepare beforehand. This question requires no further consideration, okay? Why would Miss Sakura go to the pool? Well, it's because of the delivery, right? This question doesn't seem to need to be considered any further. Yoruna said that it was Miss Sakura only came to the swimming pool in order to deliver something that the culprit had forgotten. Yes. And while we were in the classroom, everyone was quite surprised that Miss Sakura had visited the swimming pool. So the idea that she was bringing something to the pool for somebody else makes complete sense. Unless Yoruna is lying to me, but she has no reason to do so. Okay, how can the culprit's identity be determined? That's right, even if I deduced the culprit's entire process and even guessed her identity, so long as I have no evidence, I wouldn't be able to indict her. But at the moment, it doesn't look like I can find any reliable physical evidence, so I can only use other methods to exclude suspects. Hopefully, after I've reasoned the entire murder process out, there'll only be a single possible suspect left. This question obviously requires consideration. Okay, so these are the... I wonder if later on there's gonna be, more of a puzzle instead of just clicking through all of these and then she knows like, okay, these are the important ones, the others aren't important. Why is my mouse so crappy? It stops working every now and then, or I'm not sure if it's the computer's fault or the mouse's. There's something with the connection. Anyways, this is it then. Let's begin the reasoning. Right, those will be the 4 questions then. Let's answer them in a logical order. First up, how did the culprit call Miss Sakura to the swimming pool? I don't know how will I be punished if I give the wrong answer, so I'm gonna save. Because, well, I think it's probably the phone, because she doesn't have the phone, so the killer took the phone away for that reason, probably. That's right, Miss Sakura's phone disappeared. It's very possible that the killer took the phone because the killer used the phone to lure Miss Sakura to the swimming pool. But either the culprit didn't know Miss Sakura's phone password or she didn't want to snoop on a fellow classmate's phone. In any case, she couldn't remove the records left by their cell phone contact. I'm sure that even if they are committing murders, they still worry about things like that. After all, they believe that mere murders couldn't possibly terminate their ongoing relationships with their murder victims. So in order to prevent the text message from being found, the culprit had no choice but to hide Miss Sakura's phone. Yeah, I guess, because they can delete the message from their own phone, but not from Sakura's phone, so I guess it makes sense. Whether the culprit's carrying it on herself or if she tossed it in some neglected corner, it wouldn't pose much of a problem for the culprit. I don't know, now I got like a flashback. Could it be Indo-san or Tama Indo who's the killer? I don't know. Let's see what she comes up with. Whether the culprit's carrying it on herself or if she tossed it in some neglected corner, it wouldn't pose much of a problem for the culprit. Yes. Okay. Now, why did the culprit choose to commit the murder at the swimming pool? I think the showers, because the showers work, so she could, wash the blood away. That's right, Miss Sakura's corpse appeared in the old shower room, and there were no signs that the body had been dragged around, so the scene of the crime was very likely to have been there. Ah, yeah, so maybe she was. But it could have been, maybe the body was dragged and then the, blood trail was washed away. In combination with Miss Sakura's reason for visiting the pool, the reason why she appeared in the shower room becomes obvious as well. The culprit lied and said that the thing she'd forgotten to bring was related to the shower room, which was why Miss Sakura trusted her and entered the shower room. Like the swimsuit or something. Maybe it's her roommate. So rather than say that the culprit tricked Miss Sakura, Miss Sakura into visiting the swimming pool, it's more accurate to say that she tricked Miss Sakura into visiting the showers. Yeah. Since in the showers the culprit can easily wash off all the blood stains while also making the act of calling Miss Sakura out seem very natural. The thing that she said she forgot to bring was very possibly her school uniform. She probably spun Miss Sakura's story about how she'd accidentally gotten water on the uniform she brought or something. Yeah. Then after Miss Sakura brought her a set of replacement clothes into the shower, the culprit, who was wearing a swimsuit, cut open Miss Sakura's neck, getting blood all over herself in the process. So yeah, I guess it would make sense for it to be her roommate then, because she should have access to Sakura's. Sakura would have access to her uniform then, or I don't know if they locked their doors. But because she was wearing a swimsuit and because there was a shower there, the culprit was able to clean off the bloodstains very quickly and head to class. Alright, that explains both why the culprit chose to make their move near the pool, as well as how they cleaned up the bloodstains all at once. There's just one last question. With such little physical evidence, I have to come up with some way to narrow the range of the suspects to find the culprit. What angle should I take into narrowing the culprit? Method, this is like too abstract. Like, of course, the time frame, but because I think it's the method, like the uniform, like if Sakura brought the killer's uniform to the shower room, it should be somebody who has access to it. So that's the important question. So I think maybe that's method. It's impossible to start with the culprit's methodology. Firstly, I have no clue what kind of methods each of them prefers when it comes to murder. Okay. Secondly, if they have already engaged in these activities multiple times, they probably have a bit of an idea which methods each of them prefers to use. Although mere guesswork can't explain the process of the case, mere guesswork that can't explain the process of the case won't work to revive the victims, but if they expose themselves with their methodology, it'd be easy to deduce the answer that way. So I bet that they change their methods all the time and even imitate each other sometimes. Not to mention I hardly know anything about them, I can't rely on their methods to narrow down the culprit. There's just one question. Yeah, okay. Okay, time frame? That's right, the time frames. The time frame in which this case could have occurred is very short, and the class's morning meeting sets a reasonable upper bound on it. Once we deduce Miss Sakura's time of death, we can compare that with the time of each student's arrival at the classroom and easily narrow down the range of suspects. Through the recalls, I've simultaneously experienced both the morning meeting in the classroom and the encounter between Miss Sakura and Yoruna at the swimming pool. Time is on my side. I heard Yoruna and Miss Sakura speak around 6:40, and besides Yoruna, the last person to arrive at the classroom was the class president, who showed up around 7. So Miss Sakura was killed sometime during these 20 minutes. Based on the time that it took me and Indu to reach the school building and the time it took me and Yoruna to reach the pool, I can calculate that if the killer ran the whole way, she might be able to reach the classroom in between 10 and 13 minutes. But nobody arrived in the classroom looking like they'd just come off a run. So the culprit probably spent the last section of the trip adjusting their breathing back to normal. That's 15 or so minutes for the culprit to reach the classroom. That ought to be a reasonable time frame. Once everything's added up, the earliest time that the killer could possibly have arrived at the classroom is approximately 6:55. So the identity of the culprit is all but certain now. So is it the class president then? Overall, it looks pretty much exactly like how I thought it would turn out, even though there's many strange things about this place. In the end, they're all just students. The case itself was simple. The difficult part will be if I can perfectly repeat the process of the crime. After all, there's no police here, there's no meaning in forcing the culprit to confess, even with a mountain of evidence. If I can't recount the exact process successfully, then the dead won't revive. Then the next step is to find the class and recount the process of the murder to them. After that, indicting the culprit should end it. But what? Oh, wait. Oh, how did I pressed the mouse wheel? Log. Okay. Here's the log. Okay. Wait. Okay, indict. But the most critical clue that I used to identify the culprit was gained through recall, and that's not something I can tell them about. At least not before I can trust them. I've long since learned my lesson about letting others know. Okay. Okay. And they said before that recounting the case and identifying the culprits were the only things that were necessary. They didn't say anything about listing all the evidence. Okay. Also, in the end, I still have no idea why Miss Sakura bled so much. Whatever, in any case, let's try stalling them with other pieces of evidence first. I'm still like, do we know? After Ran finished organizing her thoughts, she returned to the old showers. Like, do we know who is her roommate? I think Koizumi, she was the president. Her alacrity is low, so she's not good at running. Okay, this isn't useful. I don't know. Well, maybe I guess the game will address the issue, but my main concern is that it has to be somebody who has access to the uniform, or does everybody have access to their uniform, other girls' uniforms, or only their roommates? Anyway, so we return to the showers. She saw Tama, Indo, and Makoto Asakura kneeling next to Sakura's corpse, discussing something together. Others were apparently chatting merrily together about what was on the dormitory's menu for lunch. Oh, Ibuki, you're done. That was pretty fast. After they noticed Ran, Sai, and Miho came over immediately. Miho came quite close, inspecting Ran's face carefully. You look a lot better than before. Does your head still hurt? Nah. Anyways, let's get to the point. I've already figured out the culprit and the method. Hearing Ran's words, the conversation slowly died as everyone clustered together next to Ran. Wow, already? Isn't that a new record for the shortest time to case solved from Ran then? Yes, it does seem that it only took her half an hour since the discovery of Sakura-san's body to find the answer. I don't know if you can hear it, but my son is crying in the other room, or I'm not sure if he's crying or just being I don't know. Anyways, so Ibuki-san, who is the culprit? Tamaindo was visibly overflowing with curiosity. I want to hurry up and bring Miss Sakura back to life too, so I'm not going to waste any more time. I don't intend to explain how I deduced it either. Once I explain the process, everyone will understand it. Enough with the preamble, just hurry up and spit it out. Yes, exactly. Ran looked at the emotionally provoked Sai and thought about what she'd seen in the recall. If I were to mention Yoruna's little sister right now, she'd probably freak out. Forget it, let's begin. I'm going to begin describing the culprit's complete methodology now. Firstly, either this morning or immediately after you determine the culprit and victim via picking lots, the culprit mentioned to Miss Sakura that she was feeling like she was in the mood to go swimming that morning. Oh, I didn't know you knew how to draw, Ibuki. So we are drawing the picture in the notebook, I guess, to illustrate. But this illustration isn't so good. Now this looks too much like some sign at the swimming pool or road sign or something. Even if your drawings kinda suck. Yeah, exactly. Look, if you can understand the picture, then it's good enough. It'll be clearer than me trying to explain everything with just words, at least. Well, if we're limiting ourselves to just comprehension, then it's fine, I suppose. Continue. Yoruna sure likes to pick fights with me. Are my drawings really that bad, though? Yes. Afterwards, the culprit got up early as planned and headed to the swimming pool. But in actuality, she intentionally avoided the new shower room that Yoruna frequently used and headed to the less convenient older shower rooms. Oh, even animations. Then the culprit called Miss Sakura on her phone. She lied to Miss Sakura over the call, telling her that she got her school uniform wet by accident and asked Miss Sakura to bring a spare uniform over. Oh, now that you mention, I remember Sakura was indeed carrying something when she ran into the old showers. In the recalls, Yoruna left the swimming pool earlier due to my presence, allowing her to encounter Miss Sakura and confirm that she was indeed holding something in her hand. But in reality, I didn't follow her. So she and Miss Sakura missed each other. Though, according to common sense, if she saw Miss Sakura while she was in the water, she still ought to have greeted her. As long as the two of them spoke at all, it would have been quite easy for Miss Sakura to expose the identity of the person who'd called her to the pool, right? Yeah. Well, in the recall, Yoruna and Miss Sakura didn't mention the person's name even after they spoke face to face. I'm starting to understand why they said Miss Sakura was always cooperative. So it wouldn't have been surprising for anybody to ask her to bring something to the pool. How very personally upsetting. I'll continue. So Miss Sakura did as the culprit told her and brought the school uniform to the old shower room. Ooh, long legs. Ibuki-san is suddenly putting a lot more effort into her drawings now. Yeah, that's true. Well, looks like Sakura's the only one she cares about drawing properly, huh? They still suck ass though. I think Ibuki-san is quite good at drawing. Mostly how quickly she is drawing them, I mean. So Indo saying that my art has no other redeeming qualities besides speed, huh? Can you all stop interrupting me? Can we just stop bringing up my art? I'm sorry, Ibuki-san, please proceed. Miho, I don't think Ran-chan's complaining about you. How very perceptive of you, Toyama. Anyways, I'm continuing. I noticed that the old showers didn't seem to have dedicated changing rooms, so the culprit could have used this as an excuse to have Miss Sakura bring the school uniform in. Oh, that's right. If it were over at the new shower rooms, then Anne could have placed the clothes in the dressing room and just left. So the culprit deliberately chose the old side, not just to avoid Sai, but also lure Annie into the old shower room. Lucky that Toyama volunteered that information about the new shower room just now. I did only learn about the differences between the new and old shower rooms in the recall after all. In their eyes, I shouldn't know these things. But no, even if it were on the old side, Anne could still have put the clothes on the ground before leaving, right? Yeah. Ah yeah, Anne wouldn't have done that. Correct. Miss Sakura would never just leave classmates' clothes on the floor so casually. She would definitely have brought them inside so that she could have the culprit tell her where they should be placed. Ah, that makes sense. Anne's a real goody two-shoes after all. That's right. Miss Sakura is really kind, not just to me, but even to... I can't let myself get distracted. The situation's not over yet. The culprit, meanwhile, had been waiting in the old showers for Miss Sakura. Okay, I sort of like this toilet symbol with a knife. And there's even a finger here, like, holding the knife. Miss Sakura entered entirely unaware of... Well, maybe not if she's the way you all described her. Maybe she was fully aware that the culprit planned to kill her, but she still entered the old showers without any hesitation. Maybe she hesitated, but she still entered the shower room. Think about that. After the two of them came face to face, Miss Sakura saw the other party held a weapon, and then culprit rushed in, used a sharp implement of some kind to rip open Miss Sakura's neck. This reads blood, I think, the kanji. Initially, the culprit seemingly couldn't make a very large incision, so she began cutting repeatedly. The blood gushed forth from Miss Sakura's neck, but the culprit didn't let up on her assault. She wanted to kill Miss Sakura quickly because she didn't have a lot of time left, and also because she didn't want to let Miss Sakura be tormented by the agony of slowly bleeding out. Okay. Finally, after several brutal cuts from the culprit, Miss Sakura's neck reached the state we see now. At the same time, a large amount of blood splashed onto the culprit. But the culprit had changed into a swimsuit in advance, and after Miss Sakura fell, she easily washed off the bloodstains easily by using the showers. How about her hair? Did she wear like a shower cap? Or swimming cap, whatever it's called? So that's how it happened. Then, just like with any other premeditated crime, the next thing the culprit had to do was dispose of the evidence. Well, duh, of course she did. You're only saying duh because I specifically pointed it out just now. If I hadn't, most of you would have probably assumed that you needed to start searching for clues directly at the scene of the crime. It would have been a huge waste of time to search aimlessly like that. The correct approach for this case is to start from the fact that the murderer needed to eliminate the evidence and to reason carefully from there. I understand what you mean, Ibuki-san. To sum it all up, by focusing on the pieces of evidence the culprit would need to dispose of, we can determine how the killer disposed of it, and thus deduce the killer's movements afterwards, and find more useful clues that way. Ibuki-san, you wouldn't happen to be a police officer, would you? I wouldn't know. You're quite an interesting person then. So, Ibuki-san, based on what you've described, what kind of evidence would the culprit need to discard after this? Firstly, the blood stains on the culprit were already washed off in the shower. After that, there were two pieces of physical evidence that most needed eliminated. But it's still that, if you get blood all over you, it would probably be in your hair. So, if you wash it from your hair would be wet, right? Or it would get messy, something like most of them have long hair and stuff, so I think it needs a bit more detail on that matter. One of them was the weapon that was used to harm Miss Sakura, and the dripping wet swimsuit, which might have still smelled of blood. Hang on, what about the phone? If we found the phone, then we could just check the text message logs to figure out who lured Sakura here, right? Would you really look through Miss Sakura's phone without her express permission? Well, sure, even if I didn't know the password, I'd just use Sakura's corpse to unlock it. It has the face lock, the face recognition stuff. I don't know, do people actually use it, or is it just, I've seen some, Korean dramas and stuff use it, like, cops use, a suspect's face to open their phone or something. Yorono-san? As I see it, if we could unlock the phone, we'd be able to see the text the culprit sent, and the whole case would be solved instantly. This is why I'm confident that the killer kept the phone with the swimsuit rather than throwing it away somewhere at random. Let me continue explaining, and it'll become clear. Yeah, okay. Then I'll continue. The killer didn't have much time to clean up after the murder was done. I don't recall that any of you expressed surprise that anybody was early or late to class yet. That's right, well, usually Asakura-san arrives together with me. I just couldn't get up at the same time as you today, because you were on duty this morning, and we went to bed really late last night. It's alright, tomorrow we can start coming to the classroom together again. Miho and I showed up today at the time we usually show up together. Hinata arrived at her usual time as well, and in the past, on days when Yoruno-san went swimming before class, she usually made it to class at around the same time that she did today. Though I go swimming every day, more or less. Alright. Time. Okay, just time here. The kanji. Or Hanzi, because I think this is simplified Chinese. When Yoruno headed to the pool this morning, the direction she headed was in more or less opposite to the direction that Indu and I took to reach the schoolhouse. So the layout should roughly be something like this. Here's a swimming pool. The culprit set out from here after killing Miss Sakura. And here's the dormitory. After the culprit left the swimming pool, they headed towards the dormitory. Of course, she didn't make a trip back to the dormitory just to cause trouble for herself, and it's not like the pool and dormitory are actually in a perfect straight line with each other. But the direction she walked in and the distance she traveled ought to have been comparable to a trip to the dormitory, or even further that. Finally, the culprit arrived at the schoolhouse and met us. The culprit had to make sure that despite having to travel from the pool to the classroom, a journey much longer than their usual, they could still arrive at the classroom at their usual time. So she couldn't have had an opportunity to slowly dispose of those pieces of evidence. Thus, there are only two possibilities for how those pieces of evidence could have been handled. 1 and 2. Either the culprit threw the evidence away somewhere in the trip to the classroom, or the culprit brought the evidence with them and rushed to the classroom directly. The murder weapon's not a big deal. Whether or not there's equipment for checking fingerprints here, it doesn't prevent the murderer from making sure she didn't leave any fingerprints behind. She could have picked any random place to toss it, and even if it was discovered, it had been very tough to deduce the murder process from the weapon alone, since it would just have been an ordinary sharpened implement. The critical thing was the wet swimsuit. Anybody who saw an inexplicable swimsuit lying around outside the changing room could easily deduce the process of the murder. So the culprit couldn't take the risk that it'd be found by throwing it away, and could only choose to bring it with them. For the same reason they took the phone as well. So we just need to see whose bag has a swimsuit in it then. Well, not necessarily. If the culprit didn't throw the swimsuit away haphazardly, but rather prepared a hiding spot in advance, she could have hidden it as soon as she passed by. Well, yeah, there could be, maybe they dug a hole and put a small rock on top of it or something, so then she wouldn't need to carry it on her, right? Such as here or here. The possibility does indeed exist, but the conditions for it are very strict. Firstly, the culprit had to be confident that the hiding spot could actually hide something effectively, and that it wouldn't require them to spend too much time covering it back up, and the hiding spot had to be located near the route that the culprit took to reach the classroom, or else it would eat further into her remaining time. Not only do all these conditions have to be satisfied at once, but the culprit also would have had to make these preparations in advance without being noticed by anyone. It's safe to say that the possibility is basically non-existent. But if you're insistent that the culprit is way smarter than me, then you could say that she came up with something, sure. In that case, we'll just have to go and do a thorough search of all the locations on the trail. That's how actual police investigators would do it as well. The point is to determine what clues we are looking for and to ensure that those clues exist and that they can indict the culprits. The rest is just elbow grease. And in this case, the clue that we are looking for is that swimsuit. It'll prove that my explanation is completely accurate. We can determine the owner of the swimsuit by the time of the culprit's arrival in the classroom and the approximate time when Yoruno said she saw Miss Sakura. Oh, I see. Well, therefore, we go look all over the place for clues. We might as well search everyone's bags for a swimsuit first. That's how you think the culprit would chose. That's how you think the culprit probably chose to hide it, right? Yes, that's more or less. Not so fast. Sai spoke suddenly. Forget about the fact that I know I have a swimsuit in my bag. Ibuki has already said she knows who the culprit is. Which is to say that she could confirm the culprit without even needing the swimsuit as a clue. So, how do you figure out who the culprit was, Ibuki? Yoruna sure reacted quickly. Indeed, the swimsuit can be used to confirm the method of murder, and then combined with Miss Sakura's time of death, the killer can be determined. Uh, but to their knowledge, I didn't go with Sayorono to the swimming pool, so I have no reason to be so confident that Miss Sakura definitely only died after 6:40. If I hadn't said that I knew who the culprit was at the start, though, they would have to go all the way back to the classroom to look through each of their bags and confirm the culprit's identity before coming back to find Miss Sakura. I just don't want to endure this any longer. It doesn't matter even if you can't answer me, because your reasoning itself has a big problem in it. A problem? How could that be possible? You're only so confident that the murder process you're describing, as well as the culprit that you're thinking of, are both correct. Because of the swimsuit the culprit was wearing, right? Well, yeah, the culprit could only clean herself off quickly by wearing a swimsuit while she was attacking Miss Sakura. If she was wearing a school uniform, that would have been way harder to clean up. Swimsuits are typically made of spandex, so it's very easy to wash off liquids that splash onto them. But how are you so confident that such a swimsuit even exists? Yeah, maybe she was naked. What do you. Aren't you just making an assumption, thinking that just because the culprit came to the swimming pool, she had to have a swimsuit? Yeah. Or because the swimsuit had useful attributes to the culprit in your theory, so you decided she wore a swimsuit while committing the murder. Is that not right? Of course it isn't. There's even better option for the killer in terms of being able to quickly wash off blood without leaving any evidence behind. Ran furrowed her brow, looking at Sai. She couldn't figure out what Sai's alternative answer was going to be. It was naked. In actuality, the foundation of Ran's reasoning was an extrapolation of the timeline. The swimsuit was just a piece of physical evidence that her reasoning touched upon. She'd hoped that the physical evidence would have caused the rest of them to overlook the importance of time in her deductions. Otherwise, Ran would be forced to explain everything about recalls. But even if the swimsuit wasn't the most important point, she still thought that the reasoning was correct. So, what better option did the culprit have other than the swimsuit? The killer could have been naked. Yes, exactly. Aha, seriously, I mean, I thought of it too, but it still sounds so ridiculous. Naked? It makes me want to laugh just imagining it. Imagine Anne having to face down a naked classmate. That's. Naked? Wait. Hey, Miho, you should kill me the same way next time too. Ran blinked rapidly. Stop goofing around, it's not over yet. Naked, but. Also, I'm pretty sure that if I went to you naked, things would get real weird real fast. Wait, it could. It really could have been like that if the killer had been naked. Then, as long as she started showering immediately after being splashed with blood, it'd be just as effective as wearing a swimsuit would be. And that's the idea, yep. And it really wouldn't leave any physical evidence that way, except the hair. Hair. Yeah, that would be the case. Right? But naked. I'm embarrassed just thinking about it. Well, notwithstanding how normal murders go, in our situation the dead come back to life eventually, which is equivalent to letting all our classmates see us committing a murder while naked. If it were me, I'd go naked so long as it really worked and I didn't leave any clues behind. Ha ha ha, but maybe the killer this time might not be as shameless as you. I feel like compared with some of your past escapades, I'm frankly one of the most decent of our bunch. And now these people have actually started chit chatting. Based on the timeline, the culprit has to be that person, but how am I supposed to convince the rest of them? As far as I'm concerned, the most important thing is reviving Miss Sakura. I don't give a damn about the epistemology here. Wait, you all said before that so long as the process is correct, the culprit is willing to admit it and the dead would be revived, right? Yes, that's right. But you haven't been able to address Yoruno-san's questions so far, which means that your hypothesis about the process may have been wrong as well. Ibuki-san, it's okay, let's think it over together this time. Indo is like a character who's walked out of a children's book straight into a Stephen King novel. No, I think all the reasoning up to now has been correct. The culprit that I'm thinking of would never show herself to another in the nude. Uh, then is it? Hmm. What? Don't you think it's boring to reverse engineer the possibilities by starting at the conclusions like this? Not to mention, you still don't understand us. Even if you did, you couldn't conclude that someone would never do something without definite proof beforehand. Compared to me, you're the one that's seen too many police procedurals, aren't you? If you ask me, starting from assuming some conclusion could to be true and then searching for evidence to back that up is perfectly fine. Just a method that actual detectives most frequently use. Even if they're wrong, it's not a big deal. They can just move on searching for the next clue. But this time I'm right. How recalcitrant. Well, why don't you tell us how exactly you determine the culprit's identity? Should I tell them about recall? Maybe they'd believe it, but I don't think it's a good idea. Ran didn't know what to do. Her impatient urge to revive Anne Sakura pushed her to make a decision, but she couldn't guarantee that she could think of a well rounded explanation on short notice. But at that moment, someone suddenly spoke up and saved her. I know how Ibuki san determined the culprit. Ran stared wide eyed at Miho Take. How could she? Did she see me? Take. It's a bit complicated to explain though, so let me tell everyone later. Miho's eyes were set on Ran. She seemed to want to end the dispute as quickly as possible. If you can completely and accurately restate the culprit's methods, point out the murderer, and ensure that they're willing to confess, that's all that's needed to revive the dead. So the methods, point out the murderer, and ensure that they're willing to confess. How do you ensure they're willing to confess? And I'm wondering, like, what do the killers get if they aren't caught? Like, is there some reward if a killer is successful, or like if there is no reward, what motivates them to kill? Anyways, is it just so it doesn't get so boring? Like, ultimate reason behind this killing, or are they just driven to be killers? Like there's some psycho energy making them mad. But will the culprit actually confess? We can all see Ibuki-san's feelings for Anne, can't we? She can't wait to see Anne again. Let's set aside the evidence for the culprit for now. Ibuki-san, go ahead and identify the culprit. Absolutely not. Sai interrupted Miho with a shout. Are you all trying to use this as an excuse to force a confession out of others? The rules don't permit moral blackmail. The only thing that determines the outcome here should be the truth. I'm sort of starting to like Sai because she's, I don't know, stalwart or something. Ibuki, are you the kind of person who uses their own suffering to force others to sacrifice themselves for your sake? Save. I don't know if the game is gonna crash or something at some point, so I should keep saving every now and then. Even though it's been very stable so far. What did you say? Sacrifice? You call making the culprit confess their crime a sacrifice? Ran clutched her fists, unaware of how she was tilting her head as she stared fiercely at Sai. Then what do you call Miss Sakura, who'd had her neck chopped into pieces and left bleeding out on the floor by someone? She's the actual victim here. I don't give a damn about what you're saying about blackmail and rules. I just want Anne alive. Ran sucked in a deep breath. Each of the words she spoke trembled. The culprit has killed a person, and you're seriously standing there trying your hardest to come up with an excuse for her? Yoruno, you think you're being reasonable by righteously rejecting the act of moral blackmail, but all you're doing is defending a murderer. I think you've been consumed by this ridiculous game of deduction, and now you're trying to appropriate the idea of conscience itself just to ensure its continuation. I told you already, you don't understand us, and you don't understand the meaning of our actions. Well, that is true. Sai raised her chin, squinting with locked brows. Do you still not understand? Right now, you're the one that's being presumptuous. Stop arguing with each other. Neither of you understand each other's situation. An argument is just a waste of time. Ibuki-san. You think this is just an argument? For me, this is about Miss Sakura's very life. Then you should go and find the correct answer rather than butt heads with Yoruno-san here. I said I already found it. The culprit is... Ran didn't speak the name of the culprit. She supposed that even if she said it, they wouldn't admit to it anyways. Because that person would be just like Yoruno, just like everyone else here. Another person who's been caught up in this twisted game. Ibuki-san, it's okay, you can say it. I'll admit it. Everyone looked towards the source of those words, who did her best to keep a smile on her face. Perhaps she was worried that Ran would feel guilty if she let any uncomfortable expressions show. You'll confess? Be seated. Really? Class president. Yeah, I think the game sort of hinted at it already a couple of times. And so yeah, I guess my initial hunch was wrong. Ran slowly walked to Koizumi's side. Koizumi blinked her eyes, lowered her head. Before long, she raised her head again, revealing a bitter smile. And to think, this time I wanted to try kill Sakura-san quickly and catch everyone by surprise. I can't believe how easy it was for Ibuki-san to expose me. That's right, I was the culprit behind Sakura-san's murder. And the process for the murder went exactly as she said. The swimsuit and the phone are in my bag. Exactly as Ibuki-san explained. You! Ran clenched her fist just barely kept herself from charging at Koizumi and shoving her into the wall. How can you still be capable of smiling? Koizumi quickly packed away her smile, looked at Ran anxiously. Sorry, I just... So is she... Um, she actually has some bird brooch here or something, or buckle, belt buckle. So I'm just wondering, is she Sakura's roommate or not? Because I think that's still a relevant question, right? Or maybe it's been answered in a subtle way that I missed. That how did she have access to, or rather, how did Sakura have access to her costume, and also, isn't it possible that her hair would get bloodied in the murder process, and it's you have to dry it at least? I shouldn't blame her. The class president wasn't motivated by malice. My malice, by malice. Well, she probably wasn't motivated by malice. Thank you, class president. I'm done talking now. Miss Sakura, Ran looked down at Anne Sakura's corpse. Though the corpse hadn't changed in obvious way, the wound on Anne's neck was starting to heal, starting from the inside out. Ooh, magic. The blood stains on the clothing disappeared like time was reversing, and the blood on the floor rapidly retracted and vanished. Ran was certain that the blood wasn't just being sucked back into Anne's neck. Whether she has the eye of Ra on her boob. Or what kind of school were they in if this is like the school uniform? The bone was first to regrow at the incision point, following it like a tower ascending spirally upward. The muscles, the nerves, blood vessels each quickly regenerated. Finally, newly grown skin spread over the wound, ultimately merging in the very center of the neck and erasing the wound completely. The whole process took less than a minute. The wound, it really did completely. Miss Sakura! Ran immediately fell to the floor, reaching out to pull Anne Sakura into her lap. Anne's skin gradually regained its color and her chest began to lightly rise and fall. The air around them filled her lungs again. Okay, I'm gonna predict that, once Sakura recognizes Ibuki, she's gonna be like, "Oh, you are here, I don't like you," or something, she recoils away or something like that. Miss Sakura, Sakura-san! And Sakura slowly opened her eyes. As she took her first breath, she convulsed into a cough, hacking up the last bits of clotted blood left in her throat. She really did come back to life. Tears fell from Ran's eyes as she opened her arms wide and hugged Ansakura tightly. Her smell, her warmth, even the soft parts of her body, all of them were exactly as she'd remembered. Her lover, whom she'd sought for 4 whole years, had in this moment finally returned to Ran's lap. Helplessness, anxiety, pain, loneliness, astonishment, sorrow, and joy mixed together in Ran's brain. Many words, many words. Contrary to her passionate actions, though, her faculties of thought were already beginning to remind her that she needed to carefully consider both the causes and consequences of these events. But right then, Ran just wanted to put all her attention on Anne, so she hugged her tighter and tighter. Sakura-san, I missed you. I finally found you, Sakura-san. Anne blinked a bit, seemingly unclear of what happened. Noticing this, Ran let go, looking up and down at her beloved, whom she hadn't seen for so long. Sakura-san, why aren't you talking? Is something still making you uncomfortable? No, I feel quite well. She looks a bit creepy. Anne's voice was quite calm. Lying in Ran's lap, she turned her head towards Koizumi. You got caught then, Hinata? And then, before the first session of class too. Anne nodded and then turned towards Ran. You're the one who caught Hinata? Ran wiped her face a few times, frowning, and continued holding tightly onto Anne's shoulders. Sakura, what happened to you? Why are you so calm? These past few years, for the sake of finding you, I've traveled all over the world and experienced all sorts of terrifying things before finally finding you here. And it's not that I'm complaining, but Miss Sakura, don't you have anything to say to me? It's been years since you've seen me as well, hasn't it? Did you miss me? Anne turned her head slightly, looked at Ron's face. She had the expression of somebody who was scrutinizing a piece of artwork, and it unsettled Ron. Though Ron still thought that Anne's eyes, which reflected Ron's own face in them, were so beautiful. But then, after Anne blinked, something changed in her expression, and Ron saw in her eyes a sentiment which Ron thought could never have appeared between the two of them. Unfamiliarity. Okay, so she just doesn't recognize us, she doesn't hate us or anything. Who are you? I'm Sakura. I guess check her profile. Investigation 9. Alacrity 6. Charisma. Okay, she's the best. She has the best stats. Hands down. Uniform is identical to Ran Ibuki's, but the color scheme has been changed to that of the other students. Personality is extremely different from the Anne Sakura that Ran remembers. I love you, Miss Sakura. Okay. Miss Sakura, what are you trying to say? Ran pointed at herself, then starting rubbing at her face repeatedly. It's me, Ran Ibuki. Miss Sakura, why are you... Ibuki-san, is Anne really your girlfriend? Of course she is. The sound of Ran's shouting echoed in the old showers. She and I started all the way back in high school. Started? Wait, what's just what am I? No, that's not right. Miss Sakura and I, we should already be. Ran had noticed that her memories and her current physical condition held contradictions which couldn't be ignored. Yeah, because the beginning implied that she's like a crime scene investigator, something like that. So that implies she's an adult, but I think here she is more like a teenager. But she was bewildered by the strangeness of Anne's behavior, and she didn't have the energy left to think about other problems. Girlfriend? Anne spoke a question. Have I met you before? Ran's eyes went wide, her pupils dilating in and out of uncanny frequency. She almost wanted to faint, even as her arms shook Anne's body back and forth. Yeah, Anne is gonna be like, girlfriend? I like cock. I don't, I don't swing that way. Don't be like this, Miss Sakura. Why would you say something like that to me? You know how scared I'd be if you acted like this. You can't do this. Uh, Ran released Anne and pulled at her own hair. Hi, Miss Sakura, I'm begging you. You're just teasing me. Stop. Please just tell me you're lying to me. You can't possibly have forgotten. Don't keep. I'm sorry, I really don't remember you. Ran clutched her at her own face with her hands. Under the pressure of her fingernails, several wounds appeared on her skin, and that didn't deter her from continuing to apply force. She struggled desperately to think of a way to call up Anne Sakura's memories again, or rather trying to figure out how to get Anne to stop this terrible joke. Ran lifted her head and looked at Anne with pleading eyes. Miss Sakura, you! Right, remember the time we went to the beach during the summer of our first year in high school? We sat together on the beach and watched the moon with each other. You remember that, right? At the time you'd said, I'm sorry, I really don't remember. Then what about the first time I visited your house? You held me in your lap and we talked about. I don't know of this. No, how could. There's more. Miss Sakura, you couldn't possibly have forgotten that time I almost gouged my eyes out, so you tied me to a chair and took care of me for several days until I went back to normal, right? Yeah, this is really twisted. I don't remember anything like that. It's finally come. I couldn't stop it, and now it had breached through my defenses completely. I fell to the floor and dry heaved without stop, making nauseating sounds whose echoes corroded my eardrums. Ibuki-san! Takemiho bent down and kneeled next to me, stroking my back in an effort to soothe me, but she couldn't soothe away the bleeding thorns that were now sprouting from my vertebrae. They wouldn't be satisfied with flooding forth from just my mouth, they had to tear my flesh asunder as well. I heard them, their shrill laughs, the way they mocked my loneliness, scoffed at my reclusiveness, and denied my pride. Ranchan was wrong. Miss Ibuki. Don't. They were already before me, crawling on my eyes. I flailed and tried to shake them off, but all I managed to fling to the ground were my tears, which beat a rhythm against the floor in lockstep with my trembling. Without you, who will? Anne, you can't do this to me. Ibuki-san, that's enough. Miho took my shoulder and tried to help me to my feet, but it was no good. After all, their fangs were hovering right over my cranium. If I stood up now... What fangs? I'm taking you to the infirmary. Don't touch me! I looked upwards, saw that they were standing all around me, staring at me, and their detritus, still connected together by strands of viscera, were crawling towards me. I needed to escape. I needed to bring Anne with me and get out of here. By the way, this game itself is very chunibyo. All of you, stay away from me. Don't bully me. Miss Sakura, let's go. There. My hand passed through their bodies to grab a hold of Miss Sakura's arm. I pulled her up and we ran to the exit. Oi, Ibuki! Yoruna was trying to stop me. Was she like them as well? What was she saying? Should I listen? I won't listen. I shoved Yoruna out of the way and fled the showers. The sky rumbled low and heavy, and the storm clouds building up above were on the verge of bursting. They'd catch up on me if it did. I had to get out of here. Miss Sakura, we need to go. Go where? Anywhere where it's just the two of us. Hurry. Miss Sakura was panting, but she was keeping up with my pace. That was good. Just like that, so long as we ran together, they couldn't catch us. Quickly, we need to go quickly, or else they'll... I passed through the courtyard as their fragmented whispers coursed by my ears. Were they about to catch me? Impossible. I could still remember the direction that Indu had pointed towards. I grasped Miss Sakura's hand, letting my fingernails sink into her, like a key that fit a lock, binding us tightly together into one. Soon the school gates were behind me. Northwest, that was the road out of here. I remember, Indu had pointed it out to me. Miss Sakura, Anne! The storm arrived as anticipated, but it couldn't stop me. I raised my arms to shield my eyes and continued to sprint. We're almost there, Miss Sakura. Soon we'll be able to go back. I felt the storm blast the dirt under my feet into stinking mud in an instant, making my steps so heavy. But I absolutely wouldn't let go. Miss Sakura was right behind me. I'd never be separated from her again. Miss Sakura's breaths grew heavier and heavier, and her pace seemingly grew disarrayed as well, but it was enough so long as she was still by my side. Almost there, almost. Nobody will be able to bully me anymore. We'll be together forever, Miss Sakura, But then they came. They grabbed my feet, tripped me, caused me to lurch into a muddy pothole and stumble onto the ground, pulling Miss Sakura into the mud with me. Miss Sakura, get up, quickly! We almost made it out. The tunnel's right. I saw it then. The dark tunnel was filled with silt and stone blocking the exit. I couldn't run anymore, and they were growing like thorns from the cracks of the rubble. I failed. I couldn't escape. They laughed as I continued to fail, as if I'd always done. With my escape forcefully ended, my body came to a halt as well, and my brain finally began functioning again. Just when I comprehended the situation before me, they had caught up to me as well. Don't I? Miss Sakura, why would you forget me? I began bawling. There was nothing left to keep my decrepit self going. They would dominate my sanity eternally then. And Miss Sakura, I run. Miss Sakura's voice through the torrential rain was so startlingly clear that I turned around sharply. Joy, shock, confusion, tears mixed together, pouring from my eyes. Miss Sakura, Miss Sakura, you remembered me. Miss Sakura shook her head with a calm smile on her face. I don't remember you. Her words left me trembling as I hyperventilated. My mouth reflexively opened and shut on its own, freely allowing them to pierce holes into my lips. Rainwater spilled into my throat down my windpipe, causing me unbearable pain. But you say that I'm your beloved, so that means you love me and that my body loves you as well. You're in pain because I don't remember you. Miss Sakura reached out and brushed away my tears. Even if you bear the pain of having been forgotten by your beloved, are you capable of loving me as you did before? My mind roiled like a whirlpool as I tried to comprehend the words that Miss Sakura was saying, because in my understanding the words she'd spoken were complete illogical nonsense. But the same whirlpool washed it away. That's right, she had to be Sakura. Only her voice and her expression had the power to drive them out of my mind without having to swallow a page from the notebook. It had to be her. She was my beloved. I'm Sakura. Miss Sakura! As Anne held Ran's face, her hand wiped away the twisted hallucination that had bombarded Ran without stop, and Ran wailed out loud. Miss Sakura, I missed you so much. I missed you. Don't leave me ever again. Miss Sakura. Crying, Ran grasped Anne's hand, pressed it closely to her face. She shook her head, her inner turmoil almost piercing right through her own chest. You are Miss Sakura. I can tell that you're Miss Sakura. Even though your personality and the way you act are completely different from before, why? I don't know. Anne shook her head and her smile unchanging. They call me by the name Anne Sakura, but I don't remember anything about myself. Okay. Could I be a soul that somehow made its way onto the wrong body? I've never known what my purpose for existence is. Do I have the right to exist as myself, rather than as the identity of Anne Sakura? Did Anne Sakura have things she wanted to do? Should I be trying to complete those things for her? I've never understood Anne Sakura. I've never known what it was she wanted, and nobody has ever been able to tell me. Ran, can you tell me more about Anne Sakura? Anne used her thumb to wipe away the tears from the corners of Ran's eyes, though soon the rainwater covered it back up again. Can you tell me, what should I do with my existence in this world? Miss Sakura. Beloved is someone who can become the other person's reason to continue living, right? But the present me cannot become your love because I have no memories related to you. To become each other's meaning, we have to have shared experiences first, right? Like the things you talked about before, the beachside moon, the meetings and the embraces and the suffering we endure together. Ran was silent. Anne's words to her were too difficult to take in, but it was enough to let her keep going. A reason to continue living. Ran gently took Anne's hand. Miss Sakura, from the moment I first saw you, you were always my one and only reason for living. Ran opened her eyes wide, ceased crying. I'm sorry, Miss Sakura, for doubting you. To think that I might imagine you would choose to leave me of your own volition and even forget me entirely. You've done nothing wrong. It's this school and the six of those students. They're the ones at fault. They must have done something to you. Ran updated the profile of Ann Sakura. Ran held her right hand to the back of Anne's head, pressing her to Ran's shoulders. I'll unveil the secrets of this place and find a way to make you go back to how you used to be, Miss Sakura. Just leave it to me, Miss Sakura. As long as you're here, there's nothing I can't do. Ran stood up, still holding Anne's hand. Seeing Anne's face suddenly tense, she hesitated a moment before asking, Also, Miss Sakura, can I, kiss you? Creepoid. Kiss me? Yes, because I've been looking for you for a long time. I missed you, so I'm having trouble holding myself back. Don't. We're not lovers yet. Aha, yes, of course, right. Yeah, she's really like a sex pest or something. Since Miss Sakura doesn't remember me, it's not the time or the place for that sort of thing. So let's just go back to the school then. I'm sorry that I got you drenched. It's all right. Ran nodded, holding tightly to Anne's hand as the two walked side by side towards the school. Anne, whose pace was slightly slower, lowered her head to look at Ran's jacket. The corners of her eyes pointed downwards, and her eyelashes were like a cage which sealed her eyes behind them, preventing anyone from understanding what she was thinking. But I could feel that she was looking at me. Prologue complete. A chance to increase one of your stats has been acquired. Save. I think this is also a good time to end the stream. Let's just see. So here's my attribute: investigation 6, charisma 5, alacrity 4. I think maybe charisma. I can do that next time. So yeah, I'm gonna end the stream here. Hey, finally we solved the first murder and found our lover and finished the prologue. The prologue was quite long. It took me almost 5 hours, I think, to get through it. Of course, I sometimes ramble and stuff, so that slows it down. But anyways, I'm Adventure Argonaut. I thank you for watching. Thanks for coming and all that. Bye bye.